Hey guys, thanks for joining me. This one's going to be a little short because there's going to be no sound samples, and you'll see why in a little bit when I get into talking about the instrument itself. But this will be part 8 of my guitars, and similar to the Tiesco Del Rey that I did, this is actually what I consider a family guitar because it came from my wife's family as well. The Tiesco Del Rey belonged to her uncle. This guitar belonged to her grandfather. And when we discovered this, actually, we were up north at our grandparents' property, and we're looking for something in the loft of the summer kitchen. And for those of you that don't know what a summer kitchen is, it's basically an outdoor kitchen. They've got an outbuilding with a stove, a fridge, sink, everything you could do to basically have large gatherings and not have to go inside the house. Anyways, we were looking for something up in the loft, and we spotted this, and I asked about it. And it turns out it belonged to her grandfather. He had bought the guitar as something to try and learn. He always wanted to learn a musical instrument. And my wife's grandmother said, well, if you think you can do something with it, feel free. So I was, again, very honored. I took it. I cleaned it up a little bit, did test it out. It had some rusty strings on it. But the electronics still work. So I've got the bones here to bring this back to life. And her grandfather practiced on it for quite a while, but the only thing he ever really learned was Mary Had a Little Lamb with the slide. At least that's what my mother-in-law says, because she had to listen to it. So I plan on trying to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb, and maybe something a little more advanced. We'll see how it goes once I get it up and running. And as a bonus, because this guitar is also older than me, since my son thought that everything was black and white when I was born, he'll be delighted to know that this is indeed in black and white. And silver, I guess, if you count the pickups. To get into a little history of the company of Supro, I actually could not find as much as I probably would have thought, because a lot of people know of Supro pretty much because of the amplifiers. Supro started manufacture in Chicago in 1935 and manufactured through 1968. They were originally a subsidiary of Valco. The brand itself was revived in 2014 and then acquired in 2020 by Bond Audio, the parent company of D'Angelico and Pigtronics. And they have been re-releasing, I'm assuming, updated versions of the classic Supro amps. Supro was originally just basically the budget brand of companies like National, which eventually merged with Dobro to form National, Dobro, and Valco, which produced a lot of different instruments. The amps and instruments were used by legends like David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, and even the Rolling Stones. So there is a lot of history to the brand as far as music goes, but as far as finding out a lot about it, I couldn't find it. If I ever do, I'll do an update and just add it. I'll reference this video and then just add a little more history. To get into the specs of the instrument, it's a Supro Jet Airliner 8-string lap steel, they call it, but it also you can attach the legs, which I do have, so it is a stand steel. There's no pedals for it. It's not a pedal steel. I could not find any model number or specific model name other than Jet Airliner. There are multiple variations of the Jet Airliner, 6-string, 8-string. It does have a serial number on it, but I could not find any sort of database to deal with the serial number, so I'll have to see if there's any way to decode exactly what year this is. I believe this would have been manufactured around 1961. The weight, I didn't get a weight on it because I didn't really trust the tuners enough to hold. A couple of them are bent already, so I didn't want to hurt any more of them. But I would say about 5 to 6 pounds, and that's about what I've seen online as well. The scale length, as such, it's not a traditional guitar, is at 23 inches, which I'm assuming is from possibly the bridge or the pickups to the nut. I'd have to measure it again when I get it put back together. The electronics, we have a volume and tone knob and a switch, which I am not entirely sure what it does. I did test it out with the strings on it, but it didn't make any appreciable difference, probably because I wasn't really playing anything, and it was a little scratchy. The pots are a little scratchy. I'll get into that later. The body itself for construction, the only thing I've seen listed is solid hardwood. So I'm thinking that rules out like balsa wood, but it's got a pretty good heft to it. With the paint job that's on it, there's no real way to tell. Maybe when I open the electronics cavity, I'll be able to get a better look at it, but I'm not a wood expert, so I wouldn't know for sure. The pickup is listed on almost every listing that I've seen as a Supro silver foil single coil pickup. This is not typically what I think of when I think of a foil pickup, so I'm not sure if that's accurate or if this is a different one or if that was just what they named it, if there's foil inside. But it is a single coil wide range pickup. It sounded pretty decent when I did have it up and running. The bridge itself is there, and you have, they call it a string through bridge in some of the listings, but it's basically you drop the ball ends of the strings and cinch them up and then tighten it up at the top. There is no neck. It is all the body. The fretboard is plexiglass with Thunderbird inlays, and it is screwed on. The screws are a little rusty, but I'm not going to try and replace those because there is, at the bottom part around one of the screws, there already is a little crack, and I don't want to make any of that worse. It's pretty functional the way it is. Over the bridge, there does sit a cover, which has the Supro logo on it. I took it off very carefully before because there is a small crack in it. It doesn't spread when you flex, so I'm not certain if it's a crack or a scratch, but if it ever gets worse, I'll probably have to put a little CA glue in, maybe from the back, so I don't end up with glue mess on the top of it, because it's a very nice looking cover. So that covers the hardware. I wish I could give you some sound samples, but I'll do an updated video once I get this up and running. I do want to, the main purpose of this video is I did want to discuss what I need to do to rehab this, and also get advice from folks on a couple of the different tasks. The first thing, the easy part, the tuners are very, very stiff, and a couple of them are bent. They are rusty. So I just decided rather than try and rehab those and risk damaging them, because I'm going to keep them in case we ever have to restore it to stock condition, I did source some vintage tuners. They are gold with the green plastic button because I thought that would look kind of classy. I like the ovals as well, but it does have the gold ferrule caps for the thing. They don't sit in there real well, so I'm going to have to use a little bit of glue. They're the right size, but the other ones I think must have been sat in the paint because they were in there very tough. It was hard to get off. In the same area, you'll notice there is no nut on here. I'll put up a picture of what the nut looked like so you can get a better close-up of it, but this is the nut in question, and as you can see on the low E side, or E or whatever tuning, the low string side, it is broken off. So it broke off that side of the nut, so the string wouldn't stay in. It is a 1 7/8 inch, almost 2-inch wide nut, but it is on the thin side. So finding a direct replacement for that was near impossible. I tried searching. I eventually sourced a bone blank, which is quite a bit wider and thicker. You can see that. And so I've got a lot of work to do. If anybody has any advice on the best ways to start whittling this away, sanding it down, cutting, I've never shaped a nut, so I don't know where to even start. If anybody has any advice, I'm sure I'm going to be scouring for videos on this too, to just get an idea of what I'm doing. Worst case scenario, I spend another $10 and get another blank if I wreck this one. Once I get that cut down, I plan to put it in, let it set, and then string up the guitar so I can see where the strings are sitting, so I can mark that so I know where to cut. And then as far as how deep to cut, I'm going to try and match the nut as it was as best I can. And we'll see what happens there. As for the electronics, the pots were a little bit scratchy, so I'm going to try and carefully get under the plate for the electronics. I may have to replace those screws. We'll see how it is, how the wood feels about it when I take it out. And get probably deoxit for the pots, because everything did work. It was just really scratchy, so I'm hoping that'll fix that up. And then as far as the metal on the bridge and the pickup, I believe I've seen a couple of you folks use in your videos stuff that kind of cleans up any metal, any rust, anything that I can do to kind of clean this up a little bit, to restore it just a little bit before I throw it back together. As far as the tuners go, that was the other question I had. I'm probably going to keep the original holes, even though they are somewhat crooked. I don't know if you can tell right there. They don't line up exactly, but I don't want to create extra holes. As it is, I'm probably going to have to either get slightly larger screws than what came with the gold vintage tuners, or do the toothpick trick just to get a little extra wood in there for it to bite on, so that the tuners stay good and tight. That's about all I have. I just wanted to thank everybody, and if anybody has any suggestions on what I can do for this, any suggestions on a model number, any more info on the guitar or the company, I'd be interested in seeing in the comments. As always, thank you for coming along for the ride. I hope to provide an update with sound samples on this in the not too distant future. Possibly Mary Has Little Lamb, possibly something a little more ambitious. We'll see. But thanks again. If you liked what you saw, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you want to. Have a good evening, everyone.